If you're like me and think, well, I've been making art for a while now, do I even need to go back and learn my fundamentals? Or maybe you're new to art and you're thinking, do I really want to spend hours drawing squares? Well, I worked on my fundamentals for just a few days, and I can tell you, I think it's worth it. Let me explain how working on these skills for just a few days brought my art from this to this. Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel. I only worked on a few of these principles, and I can already see a difference in how I think about my art. Depending on your source, art fundamentals can mean slightly different things, but the list that I chose to work with was line, space, value, color, texture, and form. There are many more principles to learn, but this list made the most sense to me. I only focused on 3 fundamentals for this video: form, color, and value/lighting. If you'd like me to make this into a series explaining how I use each of these principles in my art, just let me know in the comments. Now I want to get it out of the way right now that this is not an in-depth tutorial. I am simply sharing the specific points that I learned from these few days of study. I first painted this before going back and practicing my fundamentals, then I painted while trying to consciously think about what I learned. Keep in mind that I gave myself a time limit of about 3 hours per piece, where my usual paintings could take anywhere between 8 and 20 hours, so just wanted to give you that point of reference. So the first fundamental that I looked into was form. Form is essential to giving your shapes a 3D look on flat paper, or in this case, a flat screen. So for this principle, I watched some videos on drawing basic shapes: cylinders, spheres, and cubes. If you master these 3 shapes, you can make almost anything look volumetric. I drew lots of shapes. I chose to do this exercise on paper because it gives me a feeling of looseness and freedom that I don't really get with digital art. At first I thought this would be a boring, mindless exercise that I'd be able to finish easily. I was wrong. Genuinely trying to focus on the perspective of these shapes is actually harder than it looks. I didn't think I would learn anything from this exercise, but I actually did. So like I said before, form is a shape becoming volumetric, or in other words, giving the illusion of dimension. A main point I learned is that a shape needs to be at some sort of angle in order to make it appear 3D. This should have been a no-brainer, but I didn't know it, so I figured I'd share. For example, this is technically a correct drawing of a sphere, but it still looks flat until you tilt the surface lines, and then it looks more volumetric. While practicing the cubes, I learned how important perspective is when drawing, and how vital to your painting it is to establish your horizon line, or eye level, depending on what you want to call it. Knowing exactly where your vanishing point is and your horizon line can help you more easily establish more depth. Okay, so that was a longer rant on form than I was initially planning, but on to the next principle, and that is color. Oh boy, color theory, the largest, most complex fundamental of art. I am not even going to scratch the surface of this subject, but I will try. I've dabbled in color theory off and on before I did this project, but it's so vast that there is always more to learn. So first off, the basic elements of color. Value is the amount of white or black in a color. Hue is what the color is on the color wheel, warm to cold. Saturation is the purity of a color or the amount of gray in a color. The cool color range is from yellow to blue-purple. Warm colors are from yellow to red-purple. Pure yellow is a neutral color. You got all that? Okay. Every hue comes with an inherent value. For example, yellow has a higher value than blue when turned to grayscale. When painting, you need to be conscious about the colors you use. Red is a warm color, blue is a cold color, and yellow is neutral. These primary colors have nothing in common, so they are always competing with each other unless we change something about the value and saturation, and even slight changes to their hue. This can make the colors more harmonious and work together. Here's my example. Blue and orange are complementary colors, or on opposite sides of the color wheel. This term can kind of be confusing because these colors will actually compete for attention when in their purest form, which doesn't sound too complimentary to me. The goal with complementary colors is to make them harmonious, and to do that we need to bring them closer together. I start off with pure blue and pure yellow. I pulled up another color wheel because I find the one in Procreate looks a little off when you compare the two. The blue across from the orange in Procreate is slightly lighter and greener. Maybe this is more correct. If someone could explain why these two color wheels are different, that would be great. Maybe it's because I'm in RGB, which mixes red, green, and blue instead of the primaries. I don't know. Anyways, in this example, I'm going to try to bring orange and blue closer to harmony by slightly adjusting their saturation and value. The colors turn out kind of muddy looking. So if I want a more vibrant color, I move the hues literally closer together. This will help the colors communicate better. I painted 2 spheres to show this. The first sphere is without the hue shift, but the second has the hue shift. Okay, I really need to stop talking about color, because we're going to be here forever. Next is value, or light and shadow. Cast shadows are when an object is blocking the light and the shadow takes the shape of what is creating it. Form is when the planes of the subject are turned away from the light. Try to use a lower number of values in your paintings. Don't treat it like a free-for-all. I know I am guilty of this as well. It is good to first think about your subject as 3 main lighting sections before really going into the transition values. There's average light, which is where the light hits an object. There is average shadow, where the light doesn't hit. Then there is halftone. This is the light that transitions into shadow, but should be a value closer to the light than it is the shadow. Once you understand this, then you can add highlights, occlusion, and bounce light. I'm going to leave it at that, even though there was a lot more information. But like I said, this is not an in-depth tutorial. If you want that, let me know. Okay, here is the 2 final pieces, one before and one after. Let me know which one you like better, and if you think revisiting the fundamentals is worth it. I'll let you make that call. Alright, have a good day folks, and see you in the next one. Bye!